I'm C1. I'm actually from HWG. So what I do is that I represent a small startup trying to do is doing web publishing. Right now, I'm doing in Taiwan. Yeah.
Hi, so I'm Stefan. I'm PANYASIRI. I'm the CEO of C Gaming, a brand new publisher based out of Singapore. We just launched our first title, which is World of Tanks. So probably a small game that you guys know. So we have launched here in Southeast Asia, and I also have a marketing company out of Europe.
Hey guys, so it's the last panel, so just bear with us. I'm Thomas Lee with IQ. I'm the general manager for our new office in Asia. IQ is a marketing platform technology that we leverage to use to get you users. So, I've asked John to do like a little survey in a second to see who the audience is. So I'll pass it on to Gustaf.
All right. My name is Gustaf Leif. I handle business development for games for the BBC, most games mostly tied to our brands like Dancing with the Stars, Top Gear, Planet Earth, Teletubbies, and so forth.
Teletubbies.
Yeah.
Okay. So, who in the audience think of themselves as developers? Raise hands. Yeah, there's a handful of hands. And who in the audience think of themselves as publishers? The same. So there's a bunch of people who don't think of themselves either as developers or as publishers.
What do y'all do?
Vendors.
Oh, you're the money guy? All right, pick on the money guy. This is the money guy. Pick on.
Okay, good. Well then, since user acquisition may be something you're not all familiar with, we may start with a general question. What are the challenges of user acquisition? Whoever wants to start with that.
You first. You're the biggest.
I'm the first guy.
We're going by height, remember?
All right, so we decided beforehand that I will be like the big bad corporation with lots of users already, so I'm going to take that track. And the challenges we face in building audiences. So most of the stuff we do now going forward is transmedia, where we develop digital products tied to stuff that's linear, like TV shows or movies and that kind of stuff. And the biggest challenge we have actually is what type of TV audience or broadcasting audience play games, and what type of mechanics do they actually like. So it's more about content, and it's more about the type of content that we push to our users, and then how we get them to engage with it, outside of the TV space. So it's a bit different than the other three guys here will talk about, but I think I'll give a nice polarity to the discussion. And the second thing, which I think is the hardest thing, is the kind of mix of marketing you do to optimize quality users to your mobile and social products. So how much money do you spend on lunches to Apple versus acquiring users from, say, companies like Tapjoy, or traditional marketing via mobile like AdMob. So I think that type of learning is really, really important for future products when you've already learned something.
So I'll speak from the acquisition side. So what IQ does, as I stated earlier, is we work with some of the biggest publishers in the world. We also work with some of the smaller ones, new ones, startups, old friends and new. But the challenge at the end of the day is, do you have $1 million this month, or do you have $10,000 a month? Maybe you don't even have 10,000. And then if that's the case, where does BBC spend £1 million, right, as opposed to, say, 10,000 US dollars? So it's about targeting. It's about understanding your users and having enough data to manage and leverage to go back and study that data, and then hopefully you learn from your mistakes, or you build your, it's one thing to have 1 million email addresses, it's another thing to actually target those users, advertise, you have a new patch, we have, World of Tanks has a World of Planes coming up, etc. How do you keep them engaged, content, and then more importantly, how do you get them to come back? So active, and then ultimately the holy grail, which is the paying users. How do you get people to pay you? So that's what we're going to talk about today.
So we're not BBC, obviously. So although we have a big game, we have a big title, we still have to really optimize where we're spending our money. So it's really all about the quality users that you are looking for. So what are your users? This is where really important, but also where you're going to get them. Then it's all about how you manage your marketing mix. Again, you were talking about different channels. It's good to have like different channels where you go like broad and try to get like the maximum of people, but you also have to really optimize and target your audience really fast. So you got to learn about your core audience, and it's also very good for you to know your product. Some of the people are really mistaken about their product itself, where they position it, and who are your users. But not only like the users. I mean, we are working on a free-to-play, and which is, I guess, the model which is right now hot and proved to be successful. So free-to-play meaning that you also need to have non-paying users to have a great balance. So really, again, customer acquisition is very important, but you have to keep a good balance within your game.
And also, just to kind of add to what Stefan said, everybody wants users from North America. You know, everybody wants users from Germany, UK, I mean, all the usual targets, but there's a limited number of users from those territories. And just as I tell some of my clients, Europe is not a country. You can't just localize and take 3 kingdoms into English and hope to push it in, you know, all the territories, you know, I mean, 40 some odd countries and 20 some odd languages. It just doesn't work. So know your product. Where are your audiences? Where are you going to get new audiences? And again, once you have that data, how do you monetize? How do you leverage your data?
Okay. So for what we do is that, unlike Stefan, is that they have a big title, we have small titles and also small budget. So actually, is the biggest challenge is really understanding. I agree with what Stefan said, understanding your games, actually where is your users. And then also the biggest challenge is actually that you have limited budget, and then you try to spend, at the start maybe you try to spend a little on this channel, a little on that channel, but sometimes there is what a lot of people will call it the tipping point. So you just can't spread wide, because some of the acquisition method really require certain focus before it works. Maybe it doesn't work when you put very little resources, but you only work after a certain amount have been committed. So the next things that we actually leverage on is a lot of data, like understanding users, like acquiring users, like how many users you acquired when you launch a certain event, and then not only a certain event, but the amount of money and time that you spend on the event and how it affects the acquisition. So having limited resource, we have to rely a lot on statistics to actually see what is the most effective way. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have a question from the audience at this point? If anybody wants to ask a question, they can go to the microphone.
Yeah, I mean, we really encourage you to partake, you know, and see it as sort of as free consulting almost. So if we can keep this sort of forum open, I'll be much happier.
If not, then...
No, I think we're going about the wrong way. So again, so what I recommend is, we're in Asia, right? So they tend to not participate as much to say...
Okay, somebody must go to the microphone right now.
All right.
We don't continue. We don't
Free advice. What do you need?
Otherwise, we just go and ask questions to you.
Well, so I see some familiar faces, so don't make me come get you, Chris, and just, you know. No, but really, if you guys don't have questions, then we could sort of, you know, continue. But what I told Jan earlier is we should sort of keep this very informal and keep it like a Q&A session. So if you're here for a reason, we appreciate your time. You could be anywhere else, but you're here, so we want to tell you what we know. So if you don't want to know, I mean, that's cool too.
Well, I have a question to go on with.
Chris is bailing, by the way.
In fact...
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
There we
Good.
go.
Chris Early from Ubisoft.
So since it's about customer acquisition, and a number of you do that around the world, talk to us about what the distinct differences are when you focus on Southeast Asia for customer acquisition. That's not what you would have expected, or that is a lesson you learned the wrong way or the right way to do it here in Southeast Asia as compared to the rest of the world.
I think in Southeast Asia, one of the biggest differences is the organization of the market itself. I mean, where are the players are actually playing the games? And if you look at the Philippines, with Phil, can tell me more about it. But if you look at the, countries like the Philippines or Malaysia or Thailand, where the people are playing in cyber cafes, how do you get these guys? And it's very hard for Western companies or Western publishers and developers to understand how important it is to have distribution and to have people on the ground going to cyber cafes. That might be expensive at first, but you definitely need to get the people where they are. So having people to go around, promote the game, and make sure that the users understand the game, this is one of the big differences from other territories like US or Europe, where you're mostly like online. And when you are from outside Southeast Asia and you're talking about this on the ground event, then they start looking at you like, nah, it's never going to work, or why would we do that? It's just because this is where they are. And if you want to get them play, you have to do it. This is one of the main differences.
I think that's an excellent point. So just to sort of add to that, so again, I think it's about going back to knowing your product, where you're pushing that product, and specifically for Southeast Asia. I mean, I don't have enough experience to sort of elaborate on what you said specifically, but historically, if we look at South Korea, which is where sort of free-to-play originated, then we could tell from history that if you target the audiences that are at the PC cafes, for example, there are just really only one way you get paid, which is PC cafes have those, cards. Basically you clock in. So every hour you spend, you pay X, right? So that's obviously that X is different in every territory. So, well, what is your margin? How are you going to leverage it? I mean, are you going to do a bundle deal with the hardware company, et cetera? So I think that's a key differentiator. One, Southeast Asia, I think it's the latest sort of blip on the map, as it were. So we're projected to do 1.3 billion this year, I think, which is a meaningful number. And I think, from my understanding, there's a lot of FPSs being played here, which is, I guess, common anywhere. So boys like guns. I mean, it's just, not to get
They're like tanks.
sexist, but they like tanks, bigger guns. But really, I mean, in all seriousness, I think that's very important. So if you know your audience and the geo, specifically, Chris, to Southeast Asia, they like shooters, so they're going to like, tanks.
Yeah, I do have something to add to that, yeah, because I think the biggest problem in South Asia is that the market is, although the market is huge, but the talking about acquisition and marketing is still very immature. Actually, it's very fragmented. Usually, the knowledge is usually held by big publishing company. There is no like external third-party companies that is doing that. It's not yet a good industry, so there's a lot. You have to be on the ground a lot, and then there's no like if you are a Western company coming to Southeast Asia, it's not like you can just work with a few partners and then magic will happen. You have to have someone on the ground really understanding what's going on, and then understand the statistics that you see. I think that's the biggest difference, I guess. Yeah.
And what does a company like BBC, if any, have plans for Southeast Asia?
It's a hard question to answer for us, actually, because our presence there isn't very big. So we have channel distribution, like CBeebies and BBC Learning and BBC Knowledge, BBC Entertainment. Whereas our digital footprint there is not very big at all. So we license channels out to local broadcasters. And our challenge and why we're here, this might not be answer to your question, but is how do we leverage that audience to go more into the digital space? So it's mostly for us partnering with the right people. So we can do it all in one go, and then create sort of limited team in those regions. And that's really it. And I just want to add too, and I think this doesn't just stay out of Southeast Asia, but globally, is having really, really good PR strategy can be extremely effective globally if you localize it. So, you know, instead of just learning from us, is that, you know, we usually go with like big PR companies that are frankly quite useless. They don't really know games.
Do you want to name any of the useless ones?
Yeah, there's useless one and useless two that we fired. And now what we do really is we do a lot of internal PR where, you know, it was much more effective to put an intern to grabbing the 100 top forums in each country, or, you know, blogs and so forth. And then we implement, and this is free marketing, by the way. So when we contact them with press kits and so forth, you know, they will, you know, they like it. And when you say, you know, you can do a scoop on this game or this and that, and this can, any company can do this.
Well, it's easier to do press conference when you're BBC
Yes.
than ABC or.
No.
I think
I
we
mean,
have,
at least they receive the message.
Not SCA yet?
So I mean, we have an easier time getting through the door, even with cold calling emails. But, you know, even if startups, I had a startup before, and, you know, usually 20% answer, especially if you make it a bit special for them with really, really good content, like a good press kit. And, you know, and what we do there is the sort of learning from that over the past like 8 months, and this is globally where some of our games, like Top Gear and so forth, have appeal, is that we track everything. So data really is king. So say if you have approached 600 different, you know, blogs, newspapers, you know, everything from TechCrunch to the smallest game site in Holland or Taiwan, you know where these people are coming from, and then you can optimize. So now we have a list from like 800 to almost 200 that we know we can get users from the future, and this is all free. Like, we don't spend any marketing money at all, except for from biz dev work, you know, phone calls and stuff. So I think, you know, what's that Chinese proverb? Small tendrils form a big river, and it really does. We're getting almost like 800,000 users for free from these channels. Apart from, and then, you know, we add traditional marketing to that. So I think for us, that's been a very, very good learning.
Well, I think coming back to PR, PR can be a very good weapon for you to use. Be very, very careful with PR. I like the journalist. You have some journalists here, but you got to be very careful. Also, the way that you are using the PR is also try to have something meaningful to say, and not just like using PR every time you're doing something. I don't know. I change the color of my avatar. Yes, I'm going to do a PR. I just signed a small partnership. Yes, I'm going to do a PR. You're going to kill the message. So try not to use it too much. If you use it wisely, it could be really, really good. And also, once you have a kind of user base established, try to use them. That's the better advocate for you. There's the users.
Okay.
Just a quick question though. So, going back to your question, Chris. So, you know, we have in the U.S., well, even globally, I think just recently, you guys probably all heard of Facebook. You know, to me, especially in North America, I mean, Facebook is the social platform. There's no other, in my opinion. So, what about Southeast Asia? Are we talking about Facebook? Is it something else? Like, do you want to touch on that at all? Or? You guys are local. Where are you?
All right. Well, I think Facebook as an American company is still big in Southeast Asia, and it's getting really bigger and bigger in terms of usage.
Are you advertising on that? Or?
Yeah, we use Facebook.
Okay.
We use Facebook. We have a fan page. Again, you cannot isolate Facebook. Facebook is it's good mean to catch people, but it has to be part of a global strategy. It was like easy to get users from Facebook 2 years ago, but right now the competition is there. So you're not alone. You're not alone on Facebook. You have a really large audience, but still it's getting a fight to get there. So again, use it wisely.
Okay, just to share a bit of the experience I have with Facebook is that I think for a market that's outside of China is still quite, I would say, quite effective way to market. Actually, most of our acquisition is actually through Facebook, but as Stefan says, it's getting more and more expensive. So, and also that coming back to the previously when I talked about the budget that you have. So the important thing is that you have a budget. So if you just place a little bit of budget on Facebook and all this, it's not going to give you any much result. And then also the other thing is to actually, it's a bit sidetrack a bit, is that in Asia, I mean, it's very competitive. So media start to have this, getting all the publicity you make start to get the target. So it's a moving target. So we need to recognize when is when the channel has been too saturated. I think it's also important. Yeah.
Okay. Do we have another question from the audience?
This is a question regarding PR, as you mentioned just now. Now, in the Far East, particularly Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Japan as well, there are a lot of celebrity endorsing all the goods and services around here, but not quite in games. Is there a reason behind it?
Well, so do you want to just repeat the question?
No. It's a good question.
So what I heard was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying, are there any celebrity promoting games outside of Asia? Was that the question?
Well, they use big models in China right now to promote games.
It all started in Korea, of course.
You're Korean?
No. Sorry? Absolutely. I mean, it's still ongoing, but I think, again, I think it's about branding. So how do you, if you're not, so let me give you a little background. So IQ, written IQU, used to be MMO traffic, more descriptive, but I knew I was doing my job right when Yahoo Games or, well, at least a dozen other, Facebook, Google, say, hey, you're that American guy from ICQ, right? As you guys probably know, ICQ's a company that got acquired by AOL and, messaging. So I saw, yeah, I'm from ICQ. I'm that guy from ICQ. I mean, I know I'm doing my job because ICQ, just call me. I mean, I don't care what you call me. Go back to your question about rock stars or models. I mean, it's about branding and attaching to your brands to, say, I don't know, Justin Bieber if you're, a girly fan in the States, or maybe it's, I don't know, Selena Gomez if you're, teeny bopper tween sort of demo that we're targeting. Yeah, it's about branding.
Celebrities, what are the local celebrities?